Search query analysis is one of the bedrock principles for search campaign performance. Looking at your search queries can really help you determine if you need to adjust your keyword strategy. It can help you find new keywords or new negative keywords depending on who you're trying to reach. But just looking at search queries in the interface can only give you a limited view. That's where an n-gram analysis can come into play. So in this video, we want to walk you through what an n-gram analysis is, show you how to set up the script to run it, and talk about how it can help you improve your account. I want to start off with talking about what an n-gram analysis is, because I could probably walk you through verbally, but in some ways it's kind of easier to show visually first. We'll also be doing a live example here in just a minute, so you'll get some sense of what we're looking at here. But I wanted to kind of outline this to start. So first, let's say when you're going into a search query analysis, you have these three search terms: query, search term, and something someone searched. I picked these specifically because you'll notice that query is one word, search term is 2 words, and something someone searched is 3 words. When we do typical search query analysis, we would get a result where we would see the performance for each of these search terms by themselves. So we would see that query had 500 clicks, search term was 315 clicks, something someone searched had 115 clicks. There's just a line item for each search query as a whole, and that can be really useful, but sometimes we need to go a little bit deeper than that. In an n-gram analysis, let's focus just on one of these terms, something someone searched. This is a very simplified example where I've only shown 3 search queries, but in theory, if your account has lots of different keywords targeting similar or close variants of each other, you're likely going to see a lot of the individual words within this search query show up in lots of different search queries. So what an n-gram analysis does is helps you break that down into requisite parts. So rather than seeing the one line item for 115 clicks for the phrase something someone searched, an n-gram analysis will break this search query into 3 terms: something, someone, searched. And then it will give you the stats for each individual word across all of the search terms that included that word. Now this is just a single n-gram, but there are opportunities to have 2-word, 3-word, 4-word, and even longer n-gram analysis. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I did want to show you that effectively, in this example that we're seeing here, the word something showed up in enough search queries to have 218 clicks. Now that's more than it had in this individual phrase, something someone searched, with only 115 clicks, but because it was used in more than one search query, it has more clicks assigned to it. Obviously this is a very simple example. Hopefully it's clarified it a little bit, but now we're going to hop into an account and actually run this script. So we'll have an example to not only show you how to set up the script, but then we'll show you what it does and how this can be impactful in your account. So I'm in a live client account, and since we're looking at search queries, I'm going to do my best to make it so we don't have to blur anything out, but I'm not making any guarantees. This video is going to work best if you can actually see the search queries, so I'm going to leave most of these terms in. Hopefully that'll be helpful enough, and we'll blur out anytime a brand name pops up or anything like that. When you do search query analysis, you typically come to the search query report, which is going to be under Insights and Reports, and in the search terms area. That's where I'm already located now. And as I mentioned, you can see there are individual line items for each search query: workers' comp, workman's comp Oregon, workers' comp Oregon phone number, Oregon workers' comp, all this stuff. Each has their own line item with one set of performance. If you wanted to see the different types of analysis that we just talked about, maybe an individual word like phone, how many times people search for phone, you would need to come up to filter, you need to find the filter for search term, you'd have to type in contains, type in phone, click apply, and now we can see all of the search terms that contain phone, whether it's phone number or any other iteration of that, and obviously there's a lot, and we can see the performance for that. That wasn't too painful, right? But depending on what types of analysis you're looking at and how many different words or phrases you're trying to understand the performance of, this can take a really long time to do individually. And that's where our scripts are going to come in. Rather than doing this one by one, we're going to be able to do it in bulk with some pretty cool customizations. So first, let's navigate to the Scripts tab. I'm going to come over here to Tools. We're going to go to Bulk Actions and then come down to Scripts. And now we're in the Scripts Manager. You can see that we have used a couple of scripts in this account, but neither one of these are the ones that I want to use. So instead, we're going to come up here to the blue plus button, create a new script, And now we have our script builder. Over here on the left where you see code.gs is going to be where we've got some organization pieces. We're not going to use those today. This is going to be a pretty simple one. In this section right here, right in the middle, we have where the script is actually going to go. And you'll see here that I first need to authorize the script to make changes on my behalf. You will need to do this twice for any script. So I usually start off just getting one done out of the way. Pops up a new window, click the account you want to use. It will then say that you can allow the script to see, edit, create, and delete your Google Ads accounts and data, which sounds really scary, but it's only going to delete your accounts if you tell it to delete your account. So just click allow, and now we're ready to get started. Now some of you might be a little intimidated by this script builder because you don't know how to write a script. But the good news is that there are a lot of really smart people who do know how to write scripts. And a script can be carried over from one account to another, so you don't have to. Because let me tell you, I don't know how to write a script either, but I can still do this Ngram analysis because some of my friends have already done the work for me. Speaking of friends, let's hop over to a different site. Now we're on Nils's site. It's just his name, nilsruymans.com, and he has all sorts of scripts that are available that you can use in your account. It's an amazing resource, so I highly suggest you check it out if you like this script because he has tons of others that you can use. But if we scroll down a little bit, we're going to come down to the script itself. There's a little bit of history about this script up at the top, so if you're interested in that, you can check it out. But for now, I just need the script itself because I know it works, I know the history of it, so I'm going to hover over the text area. You'll see that when I did that, this little box came up over in the top right, and now I need to click this View Source icon here. There's going to be a new window. I click in it. I'm just going to copy all of it, and then I'm going to head back into my Google Ads account, highlight over all of this because he's got it included, and then click paste. Now look how complicated all that is. Look at all that script, all that interesting code, all that stuff, and I don't have to do any of it because I don't know how. There's only a very few things that we need to do to get this to start working for our account. Nice part is the options section here, as you can see starting on lines 19 and 20, this is where we're going to need to make some adjustments. After that, we don't really need to worry about anything else. So first, this script is a little bit on the older side, so the dates are a little bit out of whack. So I'm going to go ahead and update the dates to this year so far, and you can do this right in the script builder, so you can write to your heart's content in here, change whatever you need, but I highly suggest you only change the things that you know you need to change. Scripts are very easy to break, but as we've already discussed, pretty difficult to make. I'm going to change the currency symbol just because I'm in the US, we use dollars. So now we can start getting into customizing all of the data outputs that we want from this report. Under each of these, you can see that Nils has some really useful language that'll tell you what to put in this section, what not to put in it, so that you can be confident in what you're doing. I don't specifically need to contain any campaigns, but I do want to exclude some campaigns. As I mentioned, this is a live client account, and I don't want to include the brand campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and include brand in this section because it's a campaign name does not contain. So now all of my campaigns will show up except my brand campaign. You can then tell the script to either ignore or include paused campaigns and paused ad groups. So right now, it's not going to import any information from a campaign or ad group that is paused. But if you did want to include those search terms in this Ngram analysis, all you would need to do is change this true here to false, and it'll include that data. For now, I want to leave it out. The next option here is to check negatives, which means that if you leave this on, the Ngram analysis will not include any search terms that would be excluded by your negative keywords. And this sounds a little silly, but it's really, really useful. You likely don't want to do an Ngram analysis where you are specifically looking for negative keywords and then include terms that would already be excluded by your negative keywords that you have. Think about this on a long time scale. If you look at the data for the last 5 to 6 months, which I'm currently doing now, and you change this section to false, then if you added a negative keyword in, let's say February, you would still see the data for that term and think that it's coming through because it would have populated the data from January when you didn't have the negative in place. You'd likely then go in, try and add a new negative. It's already there. You just made a lot of work for yourself that you didn't need to do. So depending on what your goal is with this Ngram analysis, probably a good idea to leave the true section here for this check negatives. But if you're really just looking for how individual words or phrases performed over the lifetime of an account, and you're not necessarily looking for negatives, maybe you turn this to false. The next piece here is where we need to use our Google Drive a little bit because we need to add a URL for the spreadsheet where we want this data to be populated. I've already created a brand new document on Drive for this account, so I'm just going to copy its URL. That was done up in the taskbar up above. Come back into the script, highlight this section, and click paste. You don't need to worry about the edit or the GID equals 0. This will look all the way through it. You don't need to worry about any of that. Next, we get to choose the length of the n-gram that we want to populate. By default, it's only going to have 1 word and 2 word n-grams, but as you can see down below, you can have n-grams with a max length of 3 or even more than that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do an n-gram of 4, meaning that my analysis is going to come up with n-grams of 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, and 4 words. Because you'll notice here that this is a minimum and a maximum. It doesn't say only 1 and 4. It's going to pull each iteration in between. If we scroll down just a little bit more, there are some thresholds that I think can be really useful for people. If you have a huge ad account and want to make sure that you have only the search queries included that are going to have a big impact on your account, you can add in query count, impression, click, cost, or conversion thresholds here. And you can see down below that words would be ignored if their statistics are lower than any of those thresholds. So at this point, we're going to ignore any word that has less than 10 impressions, which in my mind, over a 5-month period, that's a good idea. I'm not really worried about any keywords that have 2 impressions and probably no clicks associated with them. But if you want to see down to every last individual word, you can change this to 0, or you could even make your thresholds more restricting and say you only want words that have 10 clicks or more, or $5 in spend or more. Whatever your heart's content is here, make sure that you've got those in place. Now we're ready to get everything sorted so we can run the script. Just to keep things straight, I'm going to name the script N-gram analysis. Makes sense? And then I'm sure there's some sort of thing that says that you should probably preview all of your scripts before you run them, all that sort of thing. We'll go ahead and click save just to save it. But I'm not going to preview it because I know what it's going to do, and it's not going to break anything. You'll notice that even though we had to authorize the script to say that it could edit, change, create, delete ad accounts, the only thing this script is doing is taking data from this account and putting it into a spreadsheet. Very low risk on this one. It does not make any changes in your account whatsoever. So I'm going to click run. Yes, run without preview. And then again, we need to authorize this script. You'll pretty much always need to do this twice. Process is going to be the exact same. Now that we've allowed it, we need to come down and click run again, run without preview. And now we wait. And now in a little less than a minute, our entire script has run and there were 3 log statements made. So let's go back to that blank spreadsheet that we had a little bit ago. And you'll notice that sheet 1, still blank, but now we have all of these additional tabs down below. Let's start off with account word analysis. This is how an n-gram will look when you're done. You'll be able to find the phrase, so each individual word that is showing up in your search term report. You'll find the query count, all of the clicks, impressions, cost, conversions, all of the different metrics that this individual word had. So now all we have to do, if we want to find that one line item for phone, like we looked at earlier, we can see now that in the account so far this year, we've had about $739 in spend, 10 conversions, cost per conversion, $78. That's pretty good overall. But this is just at the account level. We can then see further down in campaign word analysis. Unfortunately, this is only going to have one campaign, but you'd be able to see the campaign breakdown here and then how those phrases performed within that campaign. But let's go one further. You can actually do the same thing for ad group analysis. So now we have a column for ad group, and if I were to come here and create a new filter here, go to create filter, come to phrase, filter by condition, text contains, phone, click OK. Now you'll see the 3 line items for the 3 ad groups where phone showed up, and you can see the individual performance for phone related terms in those ad groups. Now this is a little bit reminiscent of going into the account and typing things in individually, but it is a lot more simple. And you'll only really use that if you need to start breaking things down by campaign or ad group. Let's go ahead and remove this filter. And then just to keep things straight later on, I'm going to actually remove the filtering option from this tab because I'm going to run this again. And sometimes things get a little bit wonky if you still have your filters and your slicer in there and active on the page. So that's just a 1-word analysis. But what about a 2-gram analysis? Let's go to the account level just to keep things straight. Now, If we come in here, open this up a little bit, now we can see that workers' compensation versus workers' comp versus compensation Oregon versus workers' comp Oregon. Every 2-word phrase, you'll even see some of these down here. In Oregon, how much, state of Oregon. These are certainly parts of longer phrases, but you might be surprised what you find in here that will perform well and won't perform at all just because of a 2-word phrase. This how much, for example, has a cost per conversion of $178. Compensation Oregon is at $198. That's pretty big considering we want a cost of conversion to be 125 or less. So that might need to be something that we look at. But now we can start to analyze 2-word phrases. But again, you'll remember we actually typed it all the way up to 4. So you'll see here a 3-gram analysis. Now we have 3-word phrases. Workers' compensation Oregon, workers' compensation insurance. You can start to break these down a little bit further. And then we also have 4-word n-gram analysis. So same sort of thing. You can see how not only individual words work, but also very short phrases work in the account. So here, one of the things that just stuck out to me, cheap workers' comp insurance. Cost per click is $58. It's not great, but I don't mind the workers' comp insurance part. I mind cheap. So now that I see that showing up here, let's go back to the account level. I'm going to come back in here, add my filter for any text that contains cheap. And now I see that we've got $161 in cost. It's only 3 clicks, no conversions. That's not great, but at this point, I might even go back and look at the data for all of 2023 and 2024 so far combined and see how cheap performs. This might be a term that we want to exclude in the campaigns moving forward. Let's go ahead and remove that again. So that was an example of how to potentially find negative terms, but what about finding positive terms? You can come over here and filter for just conversions at a high level, so Z to A. Let's see if there's anything here. So maybe insurance, terms with insurance has a lower cost per conversion. Workman's, not great, but number and phone, again, we already saw those earlier. But then if we come down here to safe, that's interesting. Maybe we need to look into something about safe. Or call, seems to be working pretty well. Volume's low, but if we maybe add more keywords about calling, maybe we'll start to see more of those terms come through. The last tab that I want to show you in this is mostly interesting, and that's going to be this word count analysis. It will always show up all the way to the far right. And in here you can see how your search queries are performing based on the word count in those queries. So we already have n-gram sheets of 1, but now we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 plus. You'll probably always have some sort of a bell curve like this where you'll have ideally lower-ish volume for single word search queries. And then we start to see a little bit more. Maybe this kind of mid long tail type of thing is going to have the highest volume. And you'll likely see 7 plus be a lot lower than everything else. But the cool part is that you can then see all of the different conversion performance for each of these. So obviously we see most of our conversions happening right here in the middle between 2 and 6, but the vast majority are between 3 and 4. So that might indicate to me that I want to make sure that I've got lots of really strong 3 and 4 word length keywords in the account. I can then go back and look at those gram analysis based on the respective tabs, see which ones are performing best, and try and make sure that I've got those keywords in my account. Let's jump back into the script interface real quick because there's something to note about this script versus other ones. If I go back to scripts over here, right now I'm on script history. I want to go back to just the main scripts manager. You can see here that we have the n-gram analysis, and you can set up this script to run on a different frequency. You can set it to run daily, whatever time of day, once, hourly, weekly, monthly, whatever you want. Now the only thing is, I will say, this script is not really conducive to that. It's not one that you're going to be able to set and have it run automatically for you and then check back regularly. And that's because of that manual date we set. For this n-gram analysis script, if you want to have it run with updated data, you're going to have to come back in and change the dates in the start and end date section that you want here. So while some scripts will automatically rotate between past 7 days, past 30 days, whatever you want, this is when you're going to need to come in and update manually to get it to run for the date range that you want. Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows how to run scripts that says, oh yeah, all you have to do is change this little thing and then you can have it run the past 180 days. That sounds great. If you want to leave the additional script change in the comments below, I'd love to give it a shot, but I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to stick to updating this manually every time I need to run this script. I'm a big fan of running n-gram analysis on my accounts maybe once a quarter, couple times a year. It's not necessarily something that needs to be done every week, every couple weeks, because you likely aren't going to see huge swings in that amount of time. And ideally, you're doing search query analysis anyway, but I highly recommend that you add this into your quarterly or semi-annual review of your account to make sure that you're staying on top of individual words or short phrases that are either having a really positive or a really negative impact on your account. Hopefully you now feel confident running this Ngram script in your account, and honestly, maybe even other scripts as well. But if you have any questions about doing an Ngram analysis or anything else in the Google Ads interface, feel free to leave us a note in the comments below. Thanks for watching our video. We really appreciate it. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up below. If you really liked it, maybe think about subscribing to the Paid Media Pros YouTube channel and you'll get alerted every time a new video drops.
If you really liked it, you can help support the channel by checking out some of the t-shirts that we're wearing on our merch shelf, as well as looking at the Super Thanks button.